Let's welcome in our draft expert, Ryan Wilson, to talk about all of this. Look, we've been talking about it enough that I'm going to start with Jordan Love with you, Ryan. When we look at the Packers trading up to get Jordan Love in the 2020 draft, how is that going to be now viewed in history?
Yeah, not great. And I'm going to ask you, man, to see if you remember, when's the last time the Packers drafted a wide receiver in the first round?
2010?
2002. Use that fun fact before I could use it. So it's been a minute, as the kids like to say, and they traded up for Jordan Love. Brandon Ayuk went one pick ahead of them. T. Higgins was available. Michael Pittman was available. They could have even traded up a few picks higher and gotten Justin Jefferson, but they went with Jordan Love, and that sort of led to all the things that followed in the months since, in terms of Aaron Rodgers being a little put off over the summer and then being wishy-washy about whether he wanted to play in Green Bay. Clearly, money talks, and I think Green Bay obviously is the right landing spot for him. But why did you take Jordan Love back in 2020? That's the big question. Now the other question, the follow-up is, what happens to Jordan Love? Is he happy sitting on the bench? I would imagine he wants to play as a former first-round pick and a competitor. And the other thing to think about is we've talked countless times about how this draft class, a quarterback, isn't great. If Jordan Love was coming out in this draft class, he'd be QB1, and I would imagine the Packers are pushing that narrative to teams that are looking to draft quarterbacks, whether in round 1 or maybe even round 2. I would be interested to see, and I need to figure out, talk to some folks, whether he's worth first-round compensation or maybe the Packers would have to settle for a second-round pick. But I think there are a lot of teams, Washington, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, that might be interested in a Jordan Love type player for the right price. And the right price might be a high second-round pick, or maybe even where the Steelers pick at 20. That might be they might be willing to part with that in order to get Jordan Love, because you have a sense of what he can do at the NFL level. He hasn't been great in the one start he had last year, but you have some tape on him in preseason, and you don't know what these guys coming out in the NFL are going to be. The Malik Willis's, the Kenny Pickett's of the world. So that's the next step in terms of Jordan Love's story, but as we sit here, Aaron Rodgers he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not. Ryan, when we were going through your mock draft yesterday, there was a handful of teams that were looking at Aaron Rodgers, teams like the Broncos, and we said, okay, we think they're going to do this, but if they get Aaron Rodgers, how many of these teams now are having to readjust what they're going to do over the next couple of weeks because Aaron Rodgers will not be there anymore?
Right, so he's the first chip to fall, so to speak, and we heard Brady and Danny talk about the other free agent quarterbacks that could be in the conversation, the Russ Wilsons and the Deshaun Watsons, and how that plays out. And then there's the free agents, the Mitch Trubisky's, the Jameis Winstons, and the Jimmy G's. So there are still a few names out there. The top name is gone. So you do have to recalibrate in terms of what your expectations are, what you're willing to pay as a team looking for a quarterback, and whether you're just going to throw your hands up and perhaps focus on the draft, because there's so many uncertainties with these free agents and soon to be and guys who could be drafted like Russ Wilson and Deshaun Watson. So Denver felt like the perfect fit because of the Nathaniel Hackett connection coming from Green Bay to Denver to take that job. Clearly, Aaron Rodgers is staying back with the Packers. So maybe Nathaniel Hackett likes Jordan Love. He has spent time with him. Also, something worth noting, if they're not in on Jordan Love, that might tell you something about how Nathaniel Hackett feels about Jordan Love in that sense. So there are a lot of dominoes left to fall. You mentioned Denver, I mentioned Atlanta already. The Saints have something to figure out, whether Jameis comes back or not. Even the Titans could be in the quarterback conversation if the price is right, and they don't love Ryan Tannehill long term. He has 2 more years left in his deal, and they can certainly get out from that next year. So there's a lot of moving parts to sort out, and there are a lot of teams, 5, 6, 7, 8, you could argue, that need quarterbacks.
Yeah, you mentioned the Titans there. Yesterday you had them taking Matt Corral, a quarterback. You said, if Aaron Rodgers is not available. So let's talk about the Packers when it comes to the draft right now. You see them sitting there at 28. Your latest mock draft has them taking Andrew Booth Jr., a cornerback out of Clemson. Does this news about Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams looking at the tag now, does this change anything for the Packers when it comes to the draft?
I would like to break the spell going back to 2002 when they took Javon Walker. I would like them to take a wide receiver, and I've done that in recent mock drafts when I busted out that 2002 fun fact. And in this most recent mock draft, I had both Treylon Burks and Chris Olave going after the Packers selected Andrew Booth Jr. They're going to re-sign Jair Alexander, but they still need help in the secondary. Yes, they drafted Eric Stokes last year to play corner, and he did a really good job. But I think the primary concern is figuring out who else is coming back with Devontae Adams, whether it's Randall Cobb, Equanimeous St. Brown is a free agent. They have some other guys guys that are free agents that were contributors as wide receivers. But if a Chris Olave is there, he comes in and starts right away. Marcos Valdez-Scantling is another name, Alan Lazard as well. Olave is a name that you bring in right away because he can play right away. He ran in the 4.3s at the combine. He didn't play quite that fast compared to Garrett Wilson, but he is the technician as a route runner. Traylon Burks ran a slow 4.55 time, but he is much more explosive now than when you watch the Arkansas games. And I think he's a guy that comes in right away as a Randall Cobb type player, but much bigger and a bigger playmaker at this stage of his career. So there are going to be options at the bottom of the first round. And look, if you've learned anything from the Packers and that Jordan Love 2020 draft, trade up and get a guy you love, whether it's a Justin Jefferson or a Brandon Ayuk. But just don't trade up for a quarterback, because I think the lesson there is you're going to make Aaron Rodgers very angry, and it's going to make things more difficult for you as an organization and as a fan base. So I think wide receivers should be in the mix. But again, you have to go back 20 years to find the last time the Packers took one in round one.
And you do wonder if they will now consult Aaron Rodgers about what they're going to do in the draft. Our draft expert, Ryan Wilson, there. His first mock right now coming off the combine. Of course, he has a lot of work to do now, rearranging things in his next mock draft. You can find that Monday on CBSSports.com. Ryan, part of the crew at the Pick Six podcast, guarantee they are doing an emergency pod right now having to do with Aaron Rodgers sticking around Green Bay for the next couple of years. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.